But everywhere he goes, whether it's a new town or a new bar, people just kind of give him a hard time and they rag on him despite the fact that he has great intentions. I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Nerdrotic.com.
Guess it's finally time I made a video on The Witcher because the bad news keeps coming and it gets worse. But first, I'd like to welcome the over 630,000 of you joining me on this journey down the rabbit hole of common sense extremism. Before this video, you heard from the very popular actor, not adult pretender, Henry Cavill, and we will hear more of his wisdom later. Now let's recap the series of events that just happened over the last few months that put The Witcher firmly in DOA status. There certainly has been a lot of cope around these parts lately, and it has been brilliant. And I'm not saying this is the best example, but it's just another one this year in the year of the Hollywood reckoning of get woke, go broke, and then beg your fans to still watch the show. Now, the first in these series of events comes from former Witcher writer Beau DeMayo. The Witcher former writer recalls staff actively mocking the source material. Beau DeMayo shed light on some of the lack of respect towards The Witcher's source material noticed by diehard fans in the show. The same diehard fans that were called the same things we have been called every time we legitimately criticize something. Although Andrzej Sapkowski, the pride of Poland's The Witcher, didn't really gain worldwide recognition until CD Projekt Red's games started to become more popular, the latter were never meant to be a like-for-like recreation of the novels, even if there are still tons of references to them in the vast world of The Witcher 3. Netflix's series has set out to do something similar, following the book's story, but changing certain themes, moments, plot lines, and the overall personality of some characters to suit its needs. In other words, completely changing the source material. Those changes do require you have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy, as writer Beau DeMayo commented during a recent Instagram Q&A session via Sci-Fi and Fantasy Gazette, something found lacking in The Witcher since some of the writers were not fans or actively dislike the books and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Perhaps it's no surprise then that within days of this article, we heard this. Liam Hemsworth is replacing Henry Cavill for The Witcher Season 4. There is no replacing Henry Cavill in this series. It's dead. Interesting wording in your headline. While Liam Hemsworth is indeed replacing Henry Cavill, it's because Henry Cavill left. And the timing couldn't have been worse for Netflix because all of this happened right before the big rollout of The Witcher prequel, Blood Origin. Never heard of it? Don't recognize this as The Witcher? I don't blame you, because honestly, I couldn't tell the difference between this, Willow, The Rings of Power, and Wheel of Time. It just looks like a very diverse group of no-name adult pretenders in rags. To be fair, it does have Michelle Yeoh, who has been great in some things and awful in others.
Every minute you remain here, your counselors must reorganize their tiny male brains to rationalize why it isn't them standing on the dais.
And it's impossible not to mention the Change.org petition, which currently sits at 279,123 signatures. Netflix, you must keep Henry Cavill as The Witcher and replace the writers instead. But a better barometer of how the fans actually feel is the Blood Origin trailers that are currently on YouTube and getting ratioed into oblivion. But even before this, there were whispers, hints, clues, signs, straight up portents that this was going to be an intersectional woke disaster. Writers from the Witcher Netflix series. We will have a cat mother, a patriarchy smasher in Haley Hall, a witch, and etc. Sure looks promising. But I would say the biggest red flag came up prior to season 2 from Henry Cavill himself.
The showrunner has a particular vision for the show and for the characters in the show. And I don't know if you've read the books, but The books, certainly the first few, there's very much from a Geralt perspective. And so with the shift of the showrunner's vision, where it's an ensemble cast more so than a singular lead, and the perspective is shifted to be almost more of a Cirilla Yennefer perspective. And so it's about finding my character's place within that vision, and making sure that I do everything I can to be as faithful to the source material as possible that I can be within the structure set out for me. Yeah, it's about finding that place in there where I can do both. I can help the showrunner realize their vision, and also bring everything I can from the books and from that psychopathic, like, loyalist nature of mine into my own personal character.
Reminder, The Witcher was one of Henry Cavill's dream projects that he walked away from. So whatever spin you hear, we know the truth. It's out there, and damn it, he was trying to tell us. The first season of The Witcher was a massive success for the streaming service, and season 2 is on the way relatively shortly. Well, it has since come out, and it wasn't a massive success. Last year, The Witcher showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich made it clear that she has enough ideas for the show to run for another 7 seasons. Well, that's not likely now. While those plans seemed overly ambitious at the time, they certainly did, and they do now. Cavill has said he's good with that plan, but he wants to make sure that those in charge make one big promise. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, the actor, who is also the most recent iteration of Superman, said that he is willing to come back to The Witcher for its entire long run, as long as the showrunners continue making high-quality programming. Cavill said that they also need to make sure that the stories that are pumped out stay true to the vision of the author of The Witcher books, Andrzej Sapkowski. Then, of course, The Witcher Season 2 came out right around Christmas, and it was completely forgettable. But who could forget the back and forth between Lauren Hissrich and Jeremy from The Quartering, where she was forced to bend the knee to the woke mob for even talking to him? But that's not all. This brings us to the latest article from Tech Radar. Speaking exclusively to Tech Radar at the Witcher Blood Origin UK junket, Hissrich said she sympathizes with viewers over Cavill leaving the hit Netflix show. However, Hissrich simultaneously appealed to fans to stick with the TV series, even if Cavill won't be a part of its cast for much longer. Of course, because she wants to keep her platform. Hissrich's response comes 5 weeks after it was revealed the show's lead actor won't return as Geralt of Rivia after The Witcher Season 3, the fantasy series which returns in Q2 of 2023, and it's already DOA, will bring the curtain down on Cavill's reign, with Liam Hemsworth, discount Hemsworth, brother of Marvel movie star Chris Hemsworth, replacing Cavill from Season 4 onwards. I highly doubt there's going to be an onwards. Then the article once again brings up the change.org petition, which we just talked about, the one that wants to keep Henry Cavill and sack the showrunners. And again, that is the single most logical decision you can make. It's the only decision you should be making. I don't care what egos you have to bruise. I don't care what contracts you have to break. Your show was much more likely to survive with Henry Cavill and without Lauren Hissrich and her writing team. Now it has no chance. But this is what happens when you hire for optics. When you cast people in certain positions like showrunners, writers, or producers, and you find out that they're not really qualified for the job, it gets a little difficult to get rid of them because of the optics. For her part, Hissrich said she completely understands the fan anger leveled at her and the rest of the show's creators. I'm wondering if that's in reference to Beau DeMayo. However, she also called on The Witcher's fan base to continue supporting its cast and crew. Why? Give us a reason, adding that failure to do so would be to the detriment of the upcoming spin-off Blood Origin and future seasons of The Witcher's main series. Hate to break this to you, sweetheart. That was you. You and your writers drove off Henry Cavill. You and your writers drove off the fans by not respecting the source material. It's a big deal for us too, Hissrich admitted when Tech Radar mentioned how fans had negatively responded to Cavill's impending departure. And that's the thing. There's a lot of talk and rumors about, and we fully understand why fans are going there. I can't help but think she means not only Henry Cavill leaving, but why he is leaving, and it doesn't sound like it's a denial. And that is the single most obvious reason why this entire staff should be fired right now. You were given a potential franchise that could have gone on for years, and you made it a feminist platform. Here's where the begging starts. What I will say is, please come back for The Witcher Season 3. What you will ask is, please come back for The Witcher Season 3 so that we can continue to do this. So you're saying if we don't come back, we won't get a Witcher Season 4? Thanks for letting us know. Obviously, that Cavill's departure is huge news, but what I don't want to do is this has to stay about Blood Origin. Declan, Dabara, Blood Origin's showrunner, the cast and the crew, this is their time in the spotlight. Oh, well, it's not going to last very long. The Witcher Blood Origin includes a major change to series Bloodline. Lauren S. Hissrich reveals Netflix The Witcher Blood Origin features a major change to the lore. It appears The Witcher Blood Origin will add a new ancestor to series Bloodline, one also involved in the creation of the first Witcher and the conjunction of the spheres. So they're going to completely make this up, and as with all prequels to established properties, Hollywood likes to do them so a girl could do it first, which already happened in the books, but it wasn't the right kind of girl. They had to correct that too. And once again, it's no surprise we hear this. Originally announced as a 6-episode show, Blood Origin was cut down significantly. And I'm guessing if there's a Witcher Season 4, and that's a big if, it will be cut down significantly in budget and episode count. A lot could happen between now and 2025. And for what it was, I liked Season 1 and defended it. It had a lot of what people liked: Geralt, monsters, and boobs. But it also had plenty of cringe like this.
Because I'm a girl and girls can't be witches. Which I think is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I want more. I have to be more because I don't know what to do in Blaviken for the rest of my life except go to the boring old market.
So the future tavern wench wants more. Maybe she could take a women's studies course at the University of Blaviken. And who could forget Geralt spending the entire final episode of the first season injured in the back of a horse cart? But not to worry, because according to Lauren Hissrich, once Henry Cavill is gone, they're going to be much more canonical. God, that sounds familiar. Rings of Power Season 2, anyone? Bottom line, Season 2 was a disaster. It's been all downhill from there. Netflix should have fired this entire writing staff, brought in new showrunners, and made Henry happy, and they would have a successful series. Now, that's not happening. But if the show doesn't satisfy you, well, there's always The Witcher 4 from CD Projekt Red, right?
My name is Piotr Nilubowicz. I'm a member of the board and CFO at CD Projekt. I'm also personally involved in a range of environmental, social, and governance initiatives, ESG for short.
You what?
Okay, never mind. It looks like they're going to try to outdo The Last of Us Part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another shining example of Hollywood looking for that mythical modern audience. Now, they didn't find the audience, but they did find something else: failure. And now The Witcher without Henry Cavill is going to look just like Blood Origins, or Wheel of Time, or Willow, or Rings of Power. They're all interchangeable, and I want you to think about this again to bring up the mythical modern audience and their never-ending quest to search for that audience and be different by subverting cultural norms. They all look the same. And what's the big difference between the previously mentioned fantasies and House of the Dragon? Masculinity. And The Witcher just lost theirs, and poor Henry Cavill is used once again by Netflix as a bait and switch. I hope that isn't the case with Argyle as well. The poor guy was born a decade or two too late, because he should be the biggest star in Hollywood right now, and James Gunn, he should most definitely be Superman. Now, one of the reasons he's so popular is because he had the fans back in that opening clip, and I'll leave you with more Cool Henry.
Henry, tell us what your comfort films are and why you chose them.
Okay, comfort films, Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. I chose them because that's one of those, it's okay. What do you want to do for Christmas? Or you're all cozy inside, and the rain is blowing sideways outside in London, and the house is nice and warm. Let's watch. You check your watch. Let's watch Lord of the Rings Extended Edition, and then you just get into it, and it's such a. Even though you've watched the story 100 times, it's so well done. It is a massive, massive movie experience, and I love them. I love it. It's just so well put together, every single aspect of it, and you don't feel like you're watching, someone who's just walked out of a costume shop. They look like real characters.
Nerdrotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, tough shit, Witcher writers, you made your own bed. See you in the next video.